care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Oh,
right? So
whoa.
I'm not going to connect with you,
Right?
and you're not going to connect with me if neither of us think that, oh, he doesn't care about me. So why would I connect with him? Why would I start to open up? Why would I start to want to be a friend with someone who doesn't care about me? So honestly, it's time. When you start to invest time into teenagers, they start to realize this guy actually cares about me.
Wow. Appreciate you being here, Peter. Welcome.
Oh, thank you, Bobby.
Mate.
Love being here.
Yeah, I know you do. You got no choice, Pete. And we've got a guest with us tonight. A really good friend of mine. There's not many people that you'd want to go to see. I call it to war with or to battle with, and different men that that's going to be by your side. That's just a stand-up character, and that's definitely Mark. Mate, Mark, welcome.
Thanks.
You're
Bob.
a stand-up cat. I cannot say enough. I highly regard you as a stand-up cat, and I know that you've been, and we're going to discuss it. You've been a youth ministry leader over many years, 15 years, and the peace that I had knowing that my children as teenagers and youth, knowing that you were their leader, you and your wife, gave us so much peace in our heart that just like the decisions that I would make as a father, I know that you're gonna continue making those decisions, knowing that I know that Mark is there and Ness is there. I was at peace, so
Praise
I really
God.
appreciate that,
Praise
man.
God,
and thanks for being on,
Thanks
man.
for having me, bro. And honestly, thank you for those kind words. My feelings are reciprocated, bro.
Yeah,
These two men, I would love to go to war with at any point in time in my life. So
appreciate it, man.
Appreciate you being here. I was kind of hoping there'd be a bit of McDonald's or maybe some Big Macs or cheeseburgers around here, but that's all right. We'll sort that out later.
Well, you did mention that you're hungry, so I don't know if you're going to get through it.
I'll be right.
Before the night's
Thanks
end.
for having me, guys.
That's
it's
all good.
Pleasure being here.
But I wanted to get you here, and I appreciate you being here. I wanted to discuss your time as a youth leader. I know that you've moved on now to the young adults, but you've had time. How many years were you a youth leader?
So my wife and I were the leaders of Epic Youth for 15 years.
Yeah.
So
and what's Epic Youth?
Epic Youth is the youth group that we ran for high schoolers through Faith Baptist Church in Regents Park.
Right.
So we looked around back in the days and saw, we had youth group, but everyone was sort of bundled together. And we decided to start something specifically for high schoolers.
Right.
So EPIC stands for Endless Possibilities in Christ.
Gotcha.
And it was something that we held to for 15 years now.
So who's we? Who?
So myself and Ines, my wife, and the team that we always had. So I always had a really good team around me. And I say the ministry is still going, and it's still going really strongly. God has seen fit to put me into young adults ministry, but we were involved in that for 15 years. I'm still very much involved, just trying to, help the current crop, the current group, the current leaders, Jeremy and Jackie and Jamie and the rest of the guys and girls, to sort of transition themselves into, making that difference in the ministry. So it is a pleasure. It's something I'm not worthy of serving God in, but all glory to Him. It worked out well, and for 15 years, it went okay.
So that's great. What ages did they vary from? Did you have to look after all the in your ministry?
They started from about 12 years old, and would move on to about 18. So anyone in high school from year 7 to year 12.
Right.
And some people start high school earlier, later, and it sort of just varied that way.
Right. And that's cool. So the youth ministry, and so you've moved on from that, and we'll discuss that. You've moved on from that as you're the young adult leader right now. But you said you and your wife and Anas. Let's take us back a little bit. How did you first meet Anas and your wife? And she's going to be listening to this, just so keep that in mind.
We're going back now. Good 15, 16 years ago, more than that. So I met her I was at church camp, and she was at her church camp.
Right.
And we used to have combined church camps with Faith Baptist Church in Blacktown. Yep. So we met at camp, and
what do you look guilty for?
I don't know. I mean, a few things happened, but I got into a bit of trouble because her parents were strict, my parents were strict.
Yeah.
Anyway, nothing happened, nothing crazy, but God brought us together that way. Right. And I thank God
parents?
for that. Yes.
Let's just get that out there. Through strict parents,
yes, absolutely.
You find your partner.
Yes. And you know what? I look back at that and I praise God for the way it actually happened back then. And the same method that was used with us, I want to use that for I got 3 girls. And, I want to make sure they're protected and they're making the right decisions as well. So
what do you mean? What method? Like, what do you mean?
Well, there were boundaries.
Okay, gotcha.
And I looked around back then thinking, they're pretty tough boundaries. But, I would adopt the same boundaries now. And society has moved on from the boundaries that used to be in the 1900s, but the Word of God never did. And I want to institute that in my family.
Good point.
Yeah, so we met back at youth camp, and I sort of saw her and started praying about, approaching her. And then 3 months later, we had another camp, which was the family camp. And so that's when I asked her, hey, listen, I like you. Do you want to get to know each other? And so we did that, and that's where it all started. When I met her, I was 19, and she was 16. So different times back then, but I praise God for bringing us together.
What were some of the boundaries that were put in place that you and did you ever push back against her parents or your parents? Were you ever upset?
I was upset.
Yeah,
I was definitely. I'm not going to deny that.
Let's go. What type of boundaries were?
Okay, so for starters, the first thing was she's still in school.
Right.
So nothing's going to happen until she finishes school.
Right.
Right. Which
is fair.
It's fair. I totally get that. At the same time, it was you want to see her, come and see her at her house. And so for a long time, that's the only time I saw Ines. In fact, our first ever date was when I proposed to her.
Right.
So I wasn't allowed to take her out on a date.
Right. That's rare now. Yeah.
And I actually sat down with the father, who's a great man. I have a lot of respect for him. We're actually very good friends. Back then, I said, look, I want to propose to your daughter, but would you at least let me take her out for dinner? And we came to an agreement. We found middle ground, and he let me do that. And
with about 8 cousins that had to go with you?
Well, he knew where we were going. We had to be back home at a certain time, and I thank God for that. And that's when I proposed to her. So we got married. I was 22. She was 19. And been married since 13 years now.
But Mike, can I just say, Ines strikes me as one of those girls that was more mature at 16 than most 16-year-olds.
Absolutely.
I just want to clarify that.
Yeah.
She kind of stands ahead from, a lot of girls in terms of maturity at her age.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I think that's one of the things that really, opened my eyes about her, is that in her mind, she wasn't a 16-year-old. She was a mature, God-loving, God-fearing girl. So then when she was 19 and when we got married, it's like she'd been, she was in her middle 20s. That's how mature she was. So you're exactly right, Pete.
But the good thing that I liked about you, when you dated her, or let's just use the Christian term, courting, you had an intent of marriage from the very onset. So Absolutely. You knew within not so long, I would assume, that you wanted to marry her.
Yep.
And that I respect, because you want to avoid those long dwindling relationships, which can potentially cause a problem, for Christian couples.
Definitely.
And you got to sift out, come on, let's call it what it is. You need to sift out the riffraff from the guys, the proper guys. And having boundaries, you sort of, I think, you're helping your children. You're helping your children in a way to sift out the riffraff from the real guys, the stand-up guys. Certainly. You know what I mean?
Even now in ministry, when I get, people are interested in certain people. I mean, there are a lot of guys I would not recommend a girl go and marry. Because, you say,
they've got some growing to do, bro.
Absolutely. They've got some maturing to do.
And nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, correct. And the one thing that...
Just timing, just not right now, mate. You need to get some things straight. Gotcha.
Yeah, you got to grow. They got to grow. Yeah. You sort of got to come. Eventually, you got to grow together. But it's all the work that God does in our lives.
Yeah. There's a responsibility that comes with seeing somebody, that you owe them a certain amount of, a certain amount, and they owe you a certain amount in a relationship. So that's a lot to carry. You just can't get in there, without a goal in mind or something, because there's a lot that's asked from you. Are you right yourself? You need to get yourself right, self-established first. Get all your ducks in a row in your mind before you can, because there's needs. Other person has needs that you got to attend to. So you got to respect that relationship.
So here's the thing, Mark. I got a question for you. Who was your spiritual advisor? Who would counsel you during this period to keep you accountable? Did you have anybody, or was it just something that you went along on this journey by yourself?
That's a big word, spiritual advisor.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I certainly wasn't by myself. So there were 3 people in my life directly. other than the Word of God and my own spiritual,
absolutely.
growth. My father, my father played a massive part, and I always said if my father was against it, I would not do it. Right. Second of all was my pastor.
Yeah.
And I went on his guidance. And third of all has been someone who's been a guide for me my whole life.
I appreciate it, mate. I really.
Is David Fagali. Sure. And he's played a massive role in my life.
Yeah, he's been that to many
kids. Absolutely. So, yes, I tried not to do anything without good, godly counsel to then help me take the next step and the next step.
Well, that's wise. That's wise.
What school did you go to, bro?
I grew up in a public school system. So I went to Bradbury Public School, which is up in Campbelltown. Right. So we grew up in Housing Commission. Yeah. We didn't have much, and because my father had got injured in a car accident before any of us were born. Sure. So he wasn't able to work anymore. So we grew up in Aids. We were the only non-Australians in the place. And
you look fairly fair yourself. Were you that fair always when you were...
I was. Yeah. My brother, some of my brothers weren't.
Right.
I got 3 brothers. But, so I went to Bradbury Public School. And then when we moved from Meds, ended up in Bosley Park. I went to Bosley Park High School. So public school system for us. My dad couldn't afford a private school system.
Yeah, that's fine. And so you went to high school in Bosley Park.
Yeah.
So what if we were mates at 14? If I look back at Mark when he was 14 years old, who was Mark at 14 years old? If we were mates, what type of guy were you?
It's funny. I was having this conversation with someone just today.
Yeah.
At 14 and 15 were my worst years. They were my most rebellious years.
Right.
At 14...
It's the age, right?
Yeah. It's when I dabbled with the things of this world, you know, a little bit of drugs, a little bit of this, and a little bit of that. And 15, so, you'd jig school, you'd go to your mate's place and you'd play pizza and eat pizza, play cards and do what guys do sort of thing. So at 14...
This is when you're meant to be at school.
Exactly.
Right.
At 14 and 15, they were the years where I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. But then at the end of 15, or as soon as I hit 16, God really... I got injured in a tackle at footy. And I remember laying on the floor...
This was when you were 15?
16. I remember laying on the floor and thinking to myself, because I couldn't feel my right arm or my right leg. I'm like, what, is this it? Is this how I'm going to be paralysed? Slowly the feeling came back, and then when I went to the doctors and did some scans, she said to me, if this happens again, you're not going to have a right arm or a right leg that'll work. Wow. Yeah. So I can actually feel it in my neck always. So God constantly reminds me of that, because the lesson I learned from that was, if I'm going to live life my way, I'm going to stuff it up.
Right.
But God gave me an opportunity to say, listen, pull the brakes on and live life my way. Right. Live life the way of the Bible. And I thank God for that injury because that's what stopped me in my tracks. I had to change friends at school. A lot of my friends I ended up seeing them in jail when we were preaching in the jail ministry. And I thank God for intervening in my life.
So why do you change friends for? What do you change friends for? If you want to, what's the point of that? Why did you just change yourself? Why do you have to change friends? Why don't you just get
influences? Simple as that. So if I'd stayed in that group, then I couldn't influence 6 people. But 6 people could so easily influence me. And that's how it became. So the Lord challenged me, and that was, you're not going to change them, they're going to change you for the worse. Evil communication, corrupt good manners. Yeah. So that's when I made that call that I've got to move away from this group, and I found a whole new set of friends at school. Right. Thankfully, my school was quite big, so we had 250 people in my grade alone. So I was able to find a good group of friends not far away. Yeah,
I had a similar experience where, I was down a wrong road and I was a bad influence on them just as much as they were on me. I think it was just when we get together, that environment that we created together had to change. So if I had to change, I had to change the people that I was hanging around, and they were hanging around me. So let's not get it twisted. Like I was just as much of a bad influence on them than they were to me. It's just the environment when we came together. So definitely, my point is that if you're on a road that is not the right road, don't think that you're going to adjust by keeping the same environment around you. You have to change what's around you in order to change roads.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's difficult otherwise.
Yeah. But look, for you, was there a faith element from the early stages in your youth?
There was. What do you mean? Did
you have some kind of a foundation in faith? for you to come back.
Yeah, I did.
You know what I mean? I know you weren't heavily involved in the church. None of us were.
Yeah, no, but I really, at the age of 13 years old, it was the first time it was presented to me at 13. Funny enough, at 13 years old, where I was just like, what you're doing is a sin. And then if you keep down this road, you're going to go to hell. It was literally, it's just black and white like that. But it was enough to go, okay, so I've gone from this story of God to actually first time having the fear of God, you know, in my life. And so that never left me. And so I did have a continuing faith journey after that. And that God never leaves you, mate. When the Holy Spirit comes to your heart, your conscience, mate, it just doesn't leave you. So there was.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a massive journey, my journey.
Sounds like a repeated pattern with a lot of Christians. You too, Mark?
Absolutely.
What age did you start going to church?
When I was born, my parents were the first couple married at Faith Baptist Church in Regent's Park. Right. In Croydon Park. So we were born, and the next Sunday we were at church. Yeah. But, I mean, honestly, it helps, but it's not the be-all and end-all. How many people do we know who grew up in church and now they're nowhere to be seen and they're ruining their lives? And
because it has to become a time. Even though you grew up in church, I might not have grown up in church. Everyone's been to church. There's got to come a point where it's not church and it's not your family's faith, but it becomes yours. Yeah, definitely. There has to come a point where you need to take ownership of your own journey and what you believe, because that's the only thing that's going to keep you on track. You know, the last thing you want to do is become a Sunday Christian. You know what I mean? It's a daily walk. And so that's what you want to be. You want to lead yourself to becoming a daily Christian, not just a Sunday Christian. Yeah. So you got to go from your family's faith to your faith. And there's got to be that point.
There's got to be a point in life where you flick the switch and it goes from, like you said, mum and dad taking me to church and this is what they believe, to me wanting to go to church, wanting to learn more about God, wanting to, live his way. And look, one of the things that really helped me was my Christian friends.
Right.
So my
environment.
My friends at church were so important to me because when I was challenged by God to leave the group of friends I was with at school, well, I knew I had my mates at church. So if all else failed, I still had them. Until this day, my closest mates are the boys that I grew up with at church.
Oh, mate, I'll have to drop Proverbs 13:20 on you. He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed.
That's right. Amen.
So over your time as a youth leader, I know you've moved on now. So how long was it? 15 years?
15 years, yeah.
Yeah. And so tell me about this. Like, I want to see if I can take the parents a little behind the scenes of youth, if I can. What was your sort of... what was your go-to, or how did you, if you got a new youth member coming to the youth, how do you build that connection? How do you go about building that connection with them? What's your go-to?
The first thing is...
And does it differ between boys and girls?
It does. It does in terms of practically how you do it. But the principle is the same from my experience.
How do you connect with them?
So they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Oh,
right. So I'm not going to connect with you,
right?
And you're not going to connect with me if neither of us think that he doesn't care about me. So why would I connect with him? Why would I start to open up? Why would I start to want to be a friend with someone who doesn't care about me? So honestly, it's time. When you start to invest time into teenagers, they start to realize this guy actually cares about me.
Wow.
So that's the method.
And so that your approach will then vary depending on the actual person, the child, boy,
correct.
Girl, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
Right.
Being a guy myself, I wouldn't go and put time into a girl, right? In Estwood, right. And I would take the time with the guys, but
what would you?
It could be as simple as, we had 30 people in the youth group, for example, right? We'd break them into groups of 5,
right.
And everyone's allocated to a certain leader.
Right.
Okay, guys, we're going to organise a day of bowling. So we jump in the car, we head to bowling. There's one leader or one mentor sort of thing, 5 of the teens, and they love it. They go bowling. You buy them a hot dog. Man, for a teenager, lunch and bowling is massive.
Yeah, right.
And then they start to realise, well, this guy actually does care. I see him at church. Or how are you going? How's things? Not where are you in your Bible, but how are you? oh, this guy cares.
Right.
So, and then from there you build that rapport with them, and it just sort of flows on from there.
So I wonder what, say if a parent has lost some sort of connection, or their child is growing, I guess, away from them, or it'll be growing distant from them. So I wonder what they could do to sort of reconnect with them.
Yep.
Do you think that just let them know that you care? What are the sort of things that they could do, do you think, to let them know that they care?
Yeah, well, it comes down
Parents to the child.
Yeah, it comes down to the individual child. Like, if I know my child likes a certain thing and doesn't like a certain thing. So, for example, if my child likes quad biking, right, and he wants to go quad biking, well, then I'll use that.
Right.
I go jump on a quad bike with him.
Right.
I'm not going to go and take them fishing if they don't like fishing. They're going to be bored the whole time. It's going to become a negative atmosphere. So you're already on the back foot.
Right.
Knowing them, knowing what they care about, knowing what they like, and playing to that.
That in itself, if I just know them and know what you care about, and know what you like and know what you dislike, or automatically, I know that you've taken the time to try and work out what I like and what I dislike. Already that builds a connection. So just know what they like and just try, I guess, baby steps, and just work your way back in with baby steps. Really know your child. It's not up to you. It's not up to the child. It's up to the parent. They have got to take the first step. They have got to. The biggest struggle that I had was when my kids coming into teens is naturally they're going to want to grow away from me. They want to grow. They're finding themselves. How do I give them distance? Giving them distance and space is them being sort of away from me and keep them close at the same time. I really struggled with that. How do I give them that space and keep them close at the same time? And I say, and it's definitely like a dance that you got to dance. Just a little bit. Give them some space. They build it close. I usually know my children. I know what they like. I might probe them a little bit. Get them. For me, the biggest thing is I need to see your teeth. Yeah. I need to see you smile. My gauge is whether you're smiling or not. That's me. That's good. That's just my personality. So whatever it is, you find it. But for me, like the gauge is if I can see your teeth. Yeah. How about that?
That's good.
That's brilliant.
I like that. I like that a lot.
That's parenting 101.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Show me your teeth.
Show me your teeth.
I've got a question for you, Mark. Okay, you're in you're teaching Epic, right? Give me an example. How do you connect with a child that's sitting there under your teaching and you just want to kind of befriend them and break the ice and just go down to the same plane that he's on? How would you do that?
Well, it starts with time. It starts with showing an interest. Now, some teenagers are very approachable. Yeah. And, they may not know you, but they'll love to go and play basketball with you. Yeah. Right? Other teenagers, they're very standoffish. In fact, they'll look down at you.
That's probably because they're shy. Yeah. That's my experience.
Yeah, agreed. But it doesn't happen the first time sometimes. Time and time again, if I'm trying to invest time with them, I'm trying to understand what they like and what makes them tick. Maybe what challenges them, what issues they're going through. So now that I'm in young adult ministry, I see a lot of the teens who used to be in the youth group, okay? Yep. And it starts to make sense to me because when I was teaching them and they were teenagers, they just didn't seem interested. But as they get older, I start to learn more about them and I'm like, that's why. Right. It now makes sense, sort of thing. If I had known that back then, I would have done it differently. If I had spent more time with them back then, I would have known it.
What are the general struggles that you found that the youth, forget about the young adults, the youth, over the years, what are the general struggles that you have found that are consistent, or things that they've gone through consistently, or what are the different things that come up over the years?
First thing is identity.
Right. What do you mean, am I a boy or girl?
No, well, it could be that, but it could be that these days. But what I found is when they hit their teenage years, things start to change, right? They start to hit, they start to get the acne and the things like that. And they're different to what they were. So they're trying to work out, well, who actually am I? Right. Like, where do I fit in this world? Where is my place? Changes are happening to me that I can't really control. So they start to struggle with that. It's just like, well, these things are moving too fast for me, and I can't keep up. My mates are shooting up, like getting this tour, and I'm still down here.
Yeah.
Like, how do you reconcile that sort of thing?
Yeah, right.
That's the first thing. The other thing is acceptance. Every teenager wants to be accepted. I mean, every human wants to be accepted, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
within their peers, a group.
yeah, and this is why peer pressure is so big with teens.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if I do that, then I'm going to be accepted. But if I don't, I'm the outcast. So I should do that. I know I shouldn't be, but I'm going to do it anyway because I want to be accepted.
Peer pressure is good. You just got to get around the right peers.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The other thing is, and I found more recently is, you know, when say a guy, a boy is growing up, he wants to be like his dad. Dad, I want to be like you. Dad, I want to be like you. Then they hit 13, 14. It's just like, no, I don't want to be like that anymore.
They cringe at the sound of your voice.
Yeah, they cringe.
Not my kids.
You're like your. Someone says to you, "Oh, you're like your dad." I don't want to be like my dad. I want to be me.
Yeah.
I want to be like LeBron James or something, right?
Yeah.
So they're they move away from wanting to be like the parent, but they do eventually come back to it. This is what I found. At the earlier years of their teens, it's like, nah, Dad, you're uncool. I don't want to be like you.
Yeah.
Or nah, Mum, you're too OCD or whatever. I don't want to be like you, right? But then they end up in their later teens, early 20s, they end up wanting to be like their parents again.
So you're bringing it down to social acceptance?
Yeah.
Social acceptance is a big one. So what's that gap that they come back to? Like, what's that distance? Like, what age do they come back to? And what makes them come back?
That varies
on the relationship with their parent
and on the person, right? What makes them come back is the maturity. They realise, well, Mum and Dad had it right from the beginning.
Right.
So with teens,
I was just going through a period in my life.
Yeah, I thought I knew everything.
I was trying to figure it all out. Yeah. As a matter of fact, the things I cared about really doesn't matter to me anymore. Yeah. Those people that I thought that I was trying to impress, exactly. Yeah. And so you think it's that point that they
definitely.
go.
They look around. It's like those people are gone, and it's just I'm here. My family's here. You know what? They had it right from the beginning.
So, Mark, look, let me just say this, right? We're holding a parenting forum this Friday. Yeah. There might be a lot of parents that are going to be listening to this podcast, right?
It's geared towards the youth this Friday.
Yeah, it is.
It's good.
The right age group, right age gap, right? Yep. Would you say a lot of the issues that the kids may be experiencing in this age bracket would result from parenting?
Yeah, some.
Would you say, from your experience, there's a lot of disconnection between parents and their teens?
Definitely.
And if so, what have you picked up on?
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Mum and Dad are busy. They're both working. Some are working 2 jobs. And rightly so. You're going to live in Sydney. You need to pay for your mortgage, sort of thing, or your rent. So they don't have the time to invest into the teenagers, which they should have, but they don't.
Is that rare, or is that?
It's pretty common.
Pretty common.
It's pretty common.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
They then if I don't have that connection now, and it might go on for 2 or 3 years, it's so hard to pull that back. So, they see that. Often, one of the biggest killers for a teenager is hypocrisy.
Right.
Well.
Right.
I see Mum and Dad say this, but they do this.
Right.
You can't fool a teenager. When the kids are younger, you can hide things from them.
Yeah.
But as they get older, they get smarter.
Yeah.
Right? That you can't hide things from them like you were able to.
Yeah.
So when Dad says, we're at church, talk and act like this and dress like this, but then at home, he's not.
Yeah.
Right? You've lost them already.
So this is the one thing that we always advocate when we're, holding parenting forums, is that your walk has got to be louder than your talk.
Yeah.
Right? And that causes a lot of damage at the moment in our church environment, because there's a lot of kids that are kind of going astray a bit.
Yep.
And that relationship between them and their parents is starting to struggle. So we kind of need parents to understand that you got to keep your finger on the pulse. You must have a relationship with your child. You must be spending that time. And that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Here's the problem. Just say you've lost that connection. How do you then establish that connection all over again? Any ideas?
I'll tell you now.
Time.
Admitting you stuffed up.
Probably.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Saying sorry. Yeah.
I'm sorry is the word that should be coming out of our mouths. Why do we as parents expect our children to say sorry, but we don't?
Yeah.
Well, there's hypocrisy right there.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great answer, Mark, because
I love how it's consistent with what we're saying.
It's consistent with what we've always been discussing, because the one thing that, when parents say, well, my child is always rebelling against me, they don't do what I want them to do, I'm just struggling to have a relationship with them. What do you think I should do? And I just had one of those incidents last week. Yeah. And I looked at this person, I said, well, the first thing you need to do is apologise. Yeah. What do you mean apologise? Well, obviously something in your parenting went wrong. Now, without going into it in too much detail, you have to go back to that point and examine yourself and see, what is it in which area did I fail my child, and apologise for it. When you do that, you're knocking down a wall that's between you and your child. Once you knock down that wall through an apology, you're now at that same level where you can communicate with them. Yep. And they will listen to what you have to say most of the time. And that's when the mending process begins to happen, right? And then it takes time, as what you said. Yeah. You have to start investing. Let them know, look, I'm sorry. Look, I've probably failed you in certain areas, but I want to make that right at the moment. I don't want to keep going down this path. And
sorry won't work unless you're spending time with them.
Exactly.
It's all got to start from time.
So it's got to be consistent.
Time in order to build that relationship, and relationship takes time. You can't just switch it on. It's not like a light switch. It takes time. It's got to get built up over time. Apologise for your wrongs, and don't be a hypocrite, man.
You got to be real.
Yeah.
You got to be real.
I'll talk about the parenting mirror. You need to parent into that mirror before you parent your kids. You know what I mean? Ask that guy in the mirror what you're asking of your children, making sure you're consistent with them.
I mean, you get up, we got to go to church. No, we have to be at church. And then something comes along in life and it's just like, I don't want to go to church today because of this. I'm going to go and do this, right? Go and watch the footy or whatever. But then we expect our kids to go to church.
Look at that. Do you find, and let me just ask this question, do you find there's a lot of kids that come to church and their parents don't?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what damage, you think about this right now, what damage is that causing? They lose respect, spiritual respect for their parents. You know what that means? They will no longer go to their parents for advice when they realise, well, hey, I can get that at church, which is a good thing, not a bad thing. But what makes it bad is when they don't have confidence in their parents to lead them spiritually. Yep. And that's a massive problem.
Yep. So kids are getting older. What's the right age, do you think? Oh, wait up. Before that, do you think that we should lead children to a point where they can make their own decisions? Okay, now you can just make all your own decisions. Should we allow them to make all their own decisions? Or what do you think is the balance between allowing children to make decisions for themselves?
Well, let's talk about an age bracket.
And what age do you think that should?
Look, for me,
do you think that parents should make the decisions for their children and never the children?
Up until a certain point.
Okay,
yes,
what is that's what I'm trying to figure out.
From what I've seen, they should start to make their own decisions on certain things in life, not on everything. Because as they get older, they start to make more decisions on other things. But even kids as young as 10 to 12, right? Okay, I want to give them a bit of leeway to, make a decision on this, right? So would you or wouldn't you? Should you or shouldn't you? Right. Get them start thinking at that age. Right. No use raising robots, and by the time that they're 16, they've done everything you said.
Wouldn't that be great though?
Sorry?
Yeah, wouldn't that be great?
I know. But then at 16 they realise, I don't want to do that.
They can't make independent decisions for them. The right independent choices.
Then they may make the wrong choices, exactly. Right. So, I think it's up to the child, up to the teenager, but they start, I think, at about 10 to 12 years old, and then as they get into their teenage years, you got to give them a bit more and a bit more and a bit more, depending on their maturity level, right? So, as I said, I got 4 kids. 3 of them, my first 3 were girls. I don't do for my second the same way I did it for my first, because they're at different maturity levels. So I'll give you an example.
At the same age,
the same age.
I treat them differently.
Exactly. So when my oldest turned 9, right, I took her out for a real fancy dinner, right? And she loved it. I bought her a necklace, and we went out, and And I thoroughly enjoyed my night, so did she, right? We talk about it till this day.
Why'd you do that for?
Daddy-daughter time. I'm big on taking my daughter out on dates, all of my daughters. So every second month, I take them all on a date separately.
Time. We're talking about time again.
Yeah, it's time.
Okay,
right?
Yeah. I wish I was your daughter.
We can go on a date. Yeah, we can have a fancy dinner. No, but then when my second turned 9, she said, "Oh, Dad, let's go. We're going to rock pool." I said, "No, we're not."
Pool. They know about rock pool.
I said, I said, "No, we're not." She said, "Why?" I said, "Well, you have a choice, okay? Rock pool is for people who are mature. So I'm going to give you a choice." I said, "You have a month to show me that you can be mature, and we'll go to rock pool in a month, or we can go wherever you want right now, but not rock pool." Within a split second, give me a month. And I saw her in that month just increase in maturity.
That's good.
Now, I dealt with her differently to the way I dealt with my first, because there are different maturity levels.
And all I could think of is time. You invested your time, and I made a decision years ago that I wasn't going to work Saturdays. But I needed to work Saturdays. Yeah. Financially, I needed to work Saturdays. But when I talk about investment, family investment was a high priority to me. So I made sure that I just wanted to invest my time into my children, and that means financially I had to take a day's loss.
Yep.
And it's just if you do things with the right intentions, the money comes back around. Like that loss that you think that you might initially have, it comes back around. But here's what I'll say. Like, if you need to keep the lights on, and that day's work needs to keep the lights on, like, forget about what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that you just think about the lack of investment that you give your children. Okay, the loss that you're gonna gain compared to a financial loss for that day. Like, you can't get those years back. No. You might be able to get financially back, but you can't get those years back. So I put my money where my mouth is. Like, I took a day's loss because I wanted to invest into my children, and that was Saturdays. It was nothing to do with the bacon and egg rolls on a Saturday sports day. Had nothing to do with it, Peter.
Well, I'm still enjoying it.
Hey,
I'm still enjoying it.
I'm not in that season yet.
I'm in that season right now. Yeah. Let me tell you, bacon egg roll every Saturday morning. Coffee at the network.
Taking them to sport, I just love them. Doing sport is a big thing. Team sport.
Yeah.
I think it's important for children. But just being there, knowing that they see you and you see them, for me, that's it's just invaluable.
Yeah, but you know what that creates as well?
Yeah.
Like we're both big on it, right?
Yeah.
We take our children to sports and all that, and they see all that, but it also establishes a confidence in our parenting, because now I see they will come up to me and ask me for advice.
Yeah.
They'll ask me questions, and that's what we want, right? We want our kids to come up, even as teenagers, and say, "Dad, what do you think about this?" Of course.
I think that's your gauge as of success as a parent. If they come up to you and say, "Dad, I want to ask you something," and I'm like, "All right, this is sweet. Okay, we're in a great place right now." If your kids don't do that, well, then you need to get back onto this relationship wagon and see if you can.
But that like you said earlier, Bob, that's because we invested time in them from the beginning, and if you haven't done that, well, don't expect to reap if you haven't sowed. It's as easy as that.
I have heard this angle is that my kids are younger now. I'm going to just work. I'm going to pay this off and pay that off, or whatever it is, so that later when they're older, I've got more time for them and I'm not as stressed out as. I've seen that angle. But for me, it was not for me, because I feel like that those younger years, you cannot get that back.
Yep.
Once they are older, they're a little bit more set and firm. The relationship's not going to be the same, man.
As they say, the ship has sailed by that time. Yeah. So for me, in their younger years, I mean, my kids are from 10 to 5, right? And there's 2 in between. I made it a point. I would come home from work, and it's, all right, let's sit down. It's daddy on the lap time. We're gonna sit down. We're gonna talk. How was your day? Yeah. What did you do? And then when another kid comes and tries to talk, no, sorry, it's not your time now.
Yeah, right.
It's her time.
Yeah, right.
So she knows I'm important enough for Dad to only talk to me and no one else. But everyone gets that time. So I will speak to my oldest, and then the second, third, and the fourth, and then they know I'm going to go home today, and I'm going to tell Dad about what happened with so and so at school. I can't wait to go and tell him. Can't wait till that time. They're looking forward to it. You build that foundation now. If you're out working, trying to pay this and that off, which I understand everyone is in a different circumstance, but if you're doing that, you're missing out on these crucial years.
At what cost?
Exactly.
What's the real cost? Besides not paying something off, what's the real cost? Just
you can't gauge it.
Take that into consideration is all I'm trying to get at. And let me just give you a hack, because your kids are younger, and I'm thinking if someone's listening and their kid's 15 years old, well, that's good for you. Your kids are coming up to you. My kids don't want nothing to do with me, or they just say, yeah, good. How's good today? Oh, yeah, good. Let me give you a hack. Ask them, if I was to let you go to school for one thing today, one subject or one thing, what would that have been? And they'll say, what would that have been? What was the most thing you enjoyed today? You had to pick one thing. It was PDHP or hanging out. Okay, well, tell me about that. You sort of reverse that and you've hacked into their day. And so what was it about that? Good. Instead of just going, oh, yeah, good, because they don't want to talk to you. So you just got to figure out ways to hack in to allow them to conversate.
Should we bring back the breakfast story, Bob? Because I can never forget what you used to do to my kids when they were young.
Go for it.
Mate, we've shared this many a time, but this is the best. Bobby would come and we'd be at the park or wherever, and Bobby would always go up to my children and say, what did you have for breakfast?
Just straight blunt. What did you have for
breakfast? There was no hello, no. What did you have for breakfast? I'm thinking that is a very peculiar question to ask a child. And where's he going with this? And they'd say, Cocoa Pops. And he'd say, Cocoa? No way. That's what I had for breakfast. Do you enjoy Cocoa Pops? And there you go. That connection was established, and he would generate a conversation. I thought that was ingenious back then.
Yeah, just try and hack, figure out the child. Some kids like to communicate, some kids not. Some kids are a bit timid. Your relationship with some might be a little distant than others. But just, for me, it's just, I guess it's my personality. I'll just go, I might have never met you before, but I'll communicate with you like I've known you for years. I'll just get straight into it.
You've got that gift.
I love it.
Like I know you for years.
You certainly have an act for that.
Yeah, seriously, are you wearing that? I wouldn't even know the person. Seriously, where'd you get that from? From where? And I never met him before. So just find the hacks, I guess. Well, that's that. So what's the? I mean, is again your time with the youth. You spend so much time there. Why do you keep coming back year after year? What makes you most fulfilled? Because there's a reason. How do you keep doing this and haven't been burnt out? A lot of teachers that teach students, I guess they get to a point where they're a little burnt out. Have you ever been burnt out? And let's go there. Okay,
the way I have managed the burnout scenario is...
You haven't lost your hair yet.
Oh, it's getting there. I try and make sure that there is a point in the year where there is a break, right? So we never ran the youth group from the middle of December till the end of January. So we had a break time. And I love that. So, I'd take the family on holidays. We'd get just recharge time.
Right. Look at you, balance.
Yeah. What kept bringing me back, and what keeps bringing me back, is the love of God. Right? The love of God is what constrains us to do this. And, God has been so gracious to me in giving me Christ to die on the cross for me, and then blessing me on this earth. No matter what I do, I can never outgive him.
Right.
So I want those teenagers or those young people to experience salvation through Christ. I want them then to experience life with Christ. It's a passion, it's a desire that my wife and I have, because growing up, and I'll bring Dave into the frame.
Who's Dave?
Dave Fagali, right? He's a deacon at our church.
Yeah.
Good mates with Pete. Good mates with you. Yeah. He was the guy who stood up back in the days when everyone sort of turned 18 and left church. He stood up to make a difference with the boys.
Right.
I was young, right? So my first ever interaction with him in terms of, going and having something to eat, he came up to me one day at church on a Sunday morning. I was 12.
He said, "What did you have for lunch?"
Well, no, it was similar, right? I was 12 years old. He said to me, "What are you doing today?" I'm a 12-year-old. I'm going home, of course.
Yeah.
I go, I'm just going home. He goes, look, go ask your dad if you could come out to lunch with me. I was taken aback because I'm 12 years old. This guy's 12 years older than me, right?
You had to put down the Commodore 64. Did you play that back then?
Exactly. So I went and asked Dad, and he said, yeah, of course. I mean, with my dad, if Dave was, no matter what Dave was doing, he'll say yes, right?
Yeah, right.
So he took me, and I had lunch with him, his brother and his sister at the Sheraton. Man, I didn't even know what a prawn was, right? I didn't know what a prawn was. I'm looking at this, like, how do I eat a prawn? What's an oyster, right? So I remember that day I had like the rice, the Chinese food stuff, right? Yeah. And I went home, and then as I got older, he kept taking us out, kept spending money on us, time on us. And when I started to get pocket money and whatever, I do odd jobs here and there, I try and pay for my meal. And he kept saying to me, I don't want your money. When you're able to, do this for someone else.
Good. Wow, look at him. He's investing forward, man. He invested forward. Good work, Dave.
Yeah.
Massive. So, and so now for me, it's like I want to give back. I want to give back of what God has given me. And I pray that this people do the same thing for my kids one day.
Yeah. So, Bobby, I want you to see something, right?
So,
he didn't know what a prawn was. Right. Okay. Now he's taking his kids to Rockpool.
Look at this.
This is what I got out of this. This is how far he's progressed. But you know what? If I can underscore one word that you said when he asked you the question, is what keeps you going? You said passion, right? Passion is what keeps you going. And I've seen that in your ministry, the way you teach kids, the way you enjoy taking them on outings. Now, I personally would struggle to take a whole batch of kids on an outing. I'd stress out, but you have a genuine love for it. And that passion that you have is the same passion that I think we as parents need to have when parenting our kids, because parents have lost that passion and they've created a wedge between themselves and their children and wondering why things went wrong. Well, that's what it is. It's passion. I enjoy spending time with my children. Even more so now that they're at that age, like Brendo's age, I can hang out with him. I enjoy his company. I love talking about basketball. You know what I mean? We find that commonality and we go for it.
That's huge. That's
huge. Have fun, man. Just have fun as a parent. You know, there's a time for being, rigorous and you got to, meet the needs of the day. And there's so much going on. But honestly, don't overlook the fact that you just need to be sometimes. And chuckle from your stomach, laugh from the pit of your stomach. Create those times, I've spoken before when my children are 8 and then when my children are around the 16-year-old age, I take them on a trip on their own.
I love it.
I take them on a trip on their own. It's a big, it doesn't have to be anything extensive, but...
So what trip have you taken them on? Give us an example. If they're not big and expensive, give us an example.
So when they're younger, I just take them to Surface. What are you laughing at, bro?
We're going to America.
Yeah. I take him to Surface Paradise. For example, I took him to Surface Paradise. Took my boys. I took my my daughter to a fathering adventure. So it was an individual trip with my daughter. So when they get older, I took my daughter to China. I took my son Brandon here to America. So just individually, I want them to know I'm just focused on you. I just care about you. Right now, nothing else matters, and it's a yes trip. It's like, yes, can we go? Yes. What do you want to do? That? Yes. Can I buy this?
Those Jordan shoes? Yes.
I mean, that's what I saved for. That's what I worked for.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. But let me tell you something. Let me tell you this. If you think that, look at you, you're taking your kids on a trip. Let me tell you what my son, Alex, my youngest, taught me when I took him. He was 8 years old. Let me tell you what he taught me when he was 8 years old. We went to Surface Paradise, and what happened with this kid? We took Surface Paradise. I took him out to Time Zone, showed him Surface Paradise. We went to Movie World that one day. I showed him all the rest were. There's Sea World and Wet and Wild. This is where we're all going to go. This is exciting. He's 8 years old, yeah? Can we go back to Time Zone? Yes, let's go back. I wanted to go back to Time Zone. Let's go back to Time Zone. No problems about that. Bang. That's the first day. Now wake up in the morning. You want to go to... I said, where do you want to go today, Dad? let's go, because I want to make sure I get there on time so I can make sure that I fit everything in. I'm thinking I'm having the best time with my son. I'm cracking over this, I'm the best dad in the world. Where do you want to go, Dad? And I got my bag ready to go. He goes, Dad, I'll play the monster game. The monster game is that I wrestle with them, so they'll jump on me, they'll grab me, and then I'll let him get away. Then I grab him. I just wrestle and I pick him up and I throw him onto the beds. I want to play the monster game. I said, Dad, there's no time right now for this monster game. We got to go. And he was adamant. I want to play the monster game. Doesn't want to go anywhere. Just wants to play the monster game. I'm thinking, I've spent all this money. I've come this whole time, and all you want to do is play the monster game in this hotel room. Then it just clicked for me. The penny dropped right there in the hotel room. And let me just tell you that no matter what you think that you're going to take your children here or spend, spend money on them there, I just realized when my son was 8, all he wants was my time and attention. And I'm like,
powerful.
And I'm like,
wow.
I thought I was king. Look at me, how good I am as a dad. And this kid, all he wanted was my time.
Wow.
Mate, I just dropped my bag in the middle of the hotel room. I picked him up and I tossed
See
him.
you later.
And it was on. The monster game was on.
See, the crazy part about that is you can play the monster game anywhere.
Yeah.
He doesn't care where it is.
Yeah.
It's with Dad.
Yeah. My attention is on him.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because you establish that boundary with him that when he hangs out with Dad, he's fun. So no matter what you do with him now, he wants to hang around with you.
Yeah.
One of the things we go home, we have dinner, and one of the things that I love, we might be sitting there having dinner and dinner's done and we're just sort of chilling a little bit. And one of my kids will say, Dad, make us laugh. Be crazy, make us laugh, right? And I just come up with the dumbest things, but they are like, they're dying. They're on the floor.
Yeah.
Man, I'm saying things that don't even make sense. I'm doing things that wouldn't make anyone laugh, but they laugh.
Yeah, right.
Because that's funny.
Yeah.
And then when my daughter says, I can't laugh anymore, stop. I can't. That, I know, you know what?
You're in a good place.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's perfect.
One of the things that, we go back to the scriptures. Provoke not your children to wrath, right? As parents...
What does that mean, Ezekiel?
Well, let's go there. Let's go. Ephesians chapter 6. Can we go there?
Go for it. Yeah, of course.
So Ephesians chapter 6, we look at the first 2 verses of this. It's children, obey your parents. Honour thy father and thy mother, right? And we look at our kids and we're like, you need to obey me.
Right.
You need to honour me. You need to respect me, right? But we forget about verse 4, right? Verse 4 is, and I'll read it, and ye fathers, this is talking to us here.
Sure.
Provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord.
Nurture. Look up that word.
Don't give your children an excuse to be angry, to feel like they're nothing. Don't go and use your authority and your power and abuse it, right? So the onus is on us to make sure that we're not the ones, disciplining out of anger or out of frustration. We're giving them every opportunity, as you say here, in the nurture and the admission of the Lord. So we're training them up in the way of God. How did Christ deal with us? He deals with us out of forgiveness, out of love, out of graciousness. He wants to teach us. And it's really how we should be as fathers. Not, what do you do? You always do this. Why? Go sit in the corner. What's sitting in the corner going to do for them?
Yeah.
Right? The corner has a place. I understand. But again, if that's all I'm doing, I'm building that barrier between me and my child.
Because it's easy for you sometimes. Yeah. You could default because it's so easy just send them into the corner because I've got no time to deal with you right now.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that probably, I don't really share this, but I guess I'm feeling compelled to share this. One of the most shameful things I've ever done as a parent, okay?
Because we can all learn from it, mate.
It was about 2 years ago. My son, he was 3, and my third daughter, Christina, so they were in his room playing toys, right? And so she would have been 5 at that point. And we were sitting there, they were sitting there, they were playing, and for a while it was all going well, and I was in the other room. And then I start to hear them whinging and sooking and whinging and sooking, and it gets on your nerves after a while, it gets worse and worse. I walked into the room and they just kept going at it. After I told them 100 times, stop it. I wanted to get their attention. I didn't mean to do this, but I felt really bad afterwards. I put my fist through the door.
Right.
Just to get their attention. My kids looked up at me and they just...
That was a shock.
Yeah. Bawled their eyes out.
Wow.
They bawled their eyes out, right? Next part was what made it worse.
One second. You did that because you feel like you want to gain control over the situation?
Yeah, I want them to listen.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
And I put the fist through the door.
Yeah.
Above where my hand went in the hole was a Bible verse that my son had got from Sunday school.
Gotcha.
I picked that Bible verse up and I covered the hole with the Bible verse.
Right.
You look at that and it's like I'm covering my own sin.
Yeah.
I learned that lesson that day.
Yeah, right.
And it's like...
I know you. You would have apologised for that.
Oh, absolutely I did. Absolutely I did.
Yeah.
Why? Because I just put my fist through that door. And I've used a Bible verse to cover it up.
Right.
Come on.
Right.
That's a dangerous path to go down.
Yeah, man.
Look, we have our moments, mate. We have our moments. I've been there many a time.
He apologised for it, man. It's the most important.
Main thing.
Let me finish off with these two things if I can. What's some advice that you would wish you could tell a teenager, a young teenager that's that's just living life? What advice would you like to give them?
You don't know everything.
Right.
You really don't. You don't know everything and you need your mum and dad. Right? So stay close to them because that's going to give you the best chance in life growing up. And it goes without saying, you need God.
Right.
Without the Lord Jesus, we're all failures.
Yeah.
And if they're struggling, is it all right to say to them, seek counsel from those, people at church that you look up to?
Leaders. Like
the leaders, your church leaders.
Like
seek counsel from them. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, praise God. There's plenty of people in the church who care about them and love them and want them to succeed and want them to be better as Christians and not just be better, but live a happier life, live a joyous life.
Okay, and I want you to be honest right now. If you can grab a parent by their shoulders, what would you like to tell them about how to parent their teenagers? What advice would you give them? Do you want to read? You want to grab my shoulders to read?
Let me just wait. Let me move the microphone closer. There you go.
Now, what advice would you give parents that have got teenage children?
I haven't parented a teen. Right? I'm not far away, but I'm not there yet. But if there's one thing I've learnt from spending time with teens for 15 years, be as real as you can be.
What do you mean?
Stop thinking you're something. And thinking that you know it all and that you're up here and your teen is down here. As they get older, it should come like this. And you should become friends, right? So the more they think that mum and dad are, they really don't know me, then they're always going to think it's going to get worse and worse as the days go on. So swallow your pride, say sorry, and get it right.
Yeah. Spend that time, what I'm hearing is spend that time, build a relationship with your children, get to know them so you can have influence over their life.
Or else you're not going to get it. You're not going to be an influence in their life.
I love it. Good stuff. You good with that?
I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, man. That's it. Anything else that's on your chest that you want to say?
Other than the cholesterol in my heart, no.
No, I appreciate it, Mark. I appreciate you coming in and give us a little bit of an insight
boys.
on your journey as a youth leader. I think some parents would have got some benefit out of your insight. I know I did. Again, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you just circulating, being a friend, and just being an example to the youth that we have out there.
Thanks for having me, boys. I really appreciate it.
And you're a rare person. Let me tell you that.
Praise God.
You're a good
Thanks
man.
for your ministry, bro.
Praise the Lord.
Love you,
God
mate.
is too good.
Thanks, boys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.